The Electoral Commission has commenced the exercise for the general update of the National Voters Register in the preparation of the 2025-2026 general election. Tonight we are discussing the 2026 EC voter registration exercise, opportunities and challenges for students. My name is Douglas Onen. I'm your host for this particular conversation. In this topic, I'm joined by a panel of distinguished ladies and gentlemen who will help us unpack and put context to the conversation. I see you guys are very happy and jolly. Hopefully we have a very thrilling and interesting conversation. So in no particular order, I'll just begin without prejudice. I introduce the lady, then I'll go to the gentleman, and then we can, have time to say hello and kickstart the conversation. The lady with a very wide smile, Miss Apili, Cynthia, Esther, you're most welcome. We're very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, Jack.
Mr. Guild President, or Emeritus of Cavendish University, Aruho brand, very happy to have you. And Mr. Aineplani Major, a name that oftentimes confuses me, but we're very happy to have you. So let's just start with you, Cynthia. Say hello and just a quick snippet to the topic that we're having today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Apili Cynthia Esther. I'm a student at Makerere University Business School. Quite an interesting topic considering how democracy has played out. So I think it's also a chance to interface with how we are receptive to the principles of democracy. But it's also an opportunity for us as young people to evaluate through the big fight that we've had surrounding leadership. Are we now ready to participate in it? Is it worth participating in? I think it's going to be an interesting topic for us to dive into, to dissect and understand the intrinsicies that come with this. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Very happy to have you here, and that's a very succinct introduction and perspective to the show. Mr. Guild President.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, Happy New Year. I pray you started the year well. Obviously, I'm happy that you have invited me over this, because this is a period where I think each and every Ugandan has to be sound and understand, especially the part that she has talked about, the democracy, which cuts into what would call governance and what any other person would want to call politics. So I think this is a discussion that people need to pay keen attention to, and to help them not only now, but also the road to 2026 and 5 years down the road after.
All right, thank you. Interesting. And a plan?
All right.
Do we have a plan, really?
Exactly.
You know that phrase.
Usually redone forever.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Drake. I'm happy to be part of this afternoon show. My name is Aineplani Major, a law student at Kampala International University. I'm glad to be part of the conversation about the roadmap, about the rights we have, because we believe every Ugandan has a right to vote, which is the first setup of the democracy we should be exercising and engaging in it. And as a youth, joining part of the youth, I'm happy and glad in this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me just give a quick background to our conversation to give us perspective. Tonight we're discussing about challenges and opportunities for students, but also at a broader sense for young people in this country. But brief context, I earlier on said in the introduction that the Electoral Commission commenced the exercise for the general update of the National Voters Register in preparation of the 2025-2026 general election. So the update exercise will be conducted from 20th January until 10th of February 2025 and at update stations as shall be publicized by each of the 10,717 parishes or wards throughout Uganda. And this exercise shall be taking place from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., even inclusive of weekends. So the purpose of the update of this exercise is to enable eligible Ugandan citizens of 18 years and above who are not yet registered as voters to do so. And the exercise will also enable registered voters who wish to transfer to new voting locations to apply for such transfer. So conclusively, a person who is already registered as a voter anywhere in Uganda does not need to register again. So the update exercise will enable such registered voters to check and confirm that their particulars are correct and appear on the voters register at the voting locations that they indicated during registration. Context to this particular background that we've given. Uganda, in the recently concluded population census in the year 2024, so that we have a huge population of young people, over 10 million and above, people aged between the ages of 18 and 35, inclusive of what? All young people. That alone, drawing back in the year 2020, the elections of the year 2020, I think it was 2021, the year 2025 now that we're experiencing, we saw that the voter turnout for young people was similarly quite low. But that said, with a huge influx of people who have turned 18 and above in this country, there is definitely need for this voter update registration. But that said, I'll begin with you, Brian. Understanding that the situation at the moment is we need to have more young people registering, but also getting to be part of the people who will cast their votes this year and next year. There are a couple of challenges that already been that we're already experiencing. From one, there's the issue of low turn-up in these stations. Besides the low turn-up in these stations, there's an issue of materials in terms of technology arriving late all over the country, in northern Uganda, eastern Uganda, among others. And besides that, there seems to be minimal knowledge in terms of awareness of this exercise. Others have argued that we need to have this exercise run for 2 months instead of 20 or between 20 to 22 days. Now, my question to you is, with all these challenges arising, what needs to be done? Because at the moment we look at it from a perspective of, we are seeing, one, some universities have already started, and people travel far and wide to go to access where they study from. And at the same time, schools will also be opening in the month of February, and this exercise ends on 10th of Feb. Schools open on 3rd of Feb. There seems to be a lot of challenges at the moment. Please explore them and give us more context.
Thank you so much. I think to begin with, the government that we are all under needs to be very considerate, because this is an exercise that is very paramount to each and every person in Uganda. Yeah. Yes, whether you are a citizen by birth, registration, it's very the whole democratic sphere is very paramount for any person in Uganda. So when you say we are updating people within a space of 22 days, that publicity you're only leaving it to mainly what we'd call the elite, those that call themselves the elite, the literates.
Yeah.
And that kills the whole thing of we want people to understand what they're going in for. I think this campaign, first of all, as you said, some people have debated that it should have taken 2 to 3 months. Which school of understanding I also would have to follow that? Maybe this thing would have started in December, and you first republicize it. Tell people why it's very crucial. Not only in English, in Runyankole, in Fumbira, in Luo, in Teso, in whatever language is there, so that people have an understanding of this. Then we have those, because you know, when you're doing information dissemination, you go down to the radios, to the TVs, you have sessions like this happening, even at the village level, so that people understand what they're going in for. Because the whole thing that this is happening, people think, oh, these guys are just trying to count their votes prior. Yes? So people think maybe it's an early, what would they call it? Vote stuffing, something like that. Ballot stuffing, rather. And that's not the truth. The truth is, I think people need to understand, and the EC, now this is where the EC comes in, that it needs to first get back on ground. Because yes, you're saying schools are opening, campuses opening, you're not going to tell someone to get transport from Eastern Uganda to come and register to Makerere. No. You need to be able to give them stations at their places as per, maybe you would say, what was your national ID standing? Because when you say, because like me, my national ID says Chira, but I want to vote from Mtunga, will it be the same standing after 5 years? Maybe you need to give us a provision of, oh guys, you can actually come to NERA, we work this out, change maybe your national ID, your standing to say maybe in Tungamo district, then I can go to the EC. When you just give us it, you're just creating a lacuna for people to actually question, why are you guys doing this in a hurry? This is not a process that is supposed to be hurried. This is a process that is supposed to first be sat down with, get the stakeholders, the youth leaders, consult with them, give them time to publicize within their circles, get the elderly, discuss with them, go down to the PWDs, have an understanding with them, so that you know you're creating a database that is very well informed in terms of figures, in terms of statistics, because you're then looking at, oh, because you see what is happening now is they even, after they're going to ask for volunteers, oh, come and help us with this process. But when you've done this whole, it's practically again doing a repopulation census, understanding what is on ground. And you don't just wake up. You need massive, let me call it campaigning. You need massive campaigning by the EC so that one, people get trust in it. That's because you've said, usually during the processes, we have material reaching late in northern Uganda, eastern Uganda. We saw these things early. When you have a process like this done again, refreshed, you're buying trust. Right now, EC is buying trust from the people, which it should do, not just electronically sending people links or look at this image or what. People need to understand these things not from the English perspective, from the perspective that there is a mother tongue that they can listen to, that they can accommodate with. Then our MPs can get on ground, and that's all these people want contest those of Cynthia. Need to go back on ground, and I don't know if she wants to contest. Need to go back on ground and actually make people understand that, guys, look, this is for our betterment. We don't want you to just vote for a president later on in the future. We don't want you to just vote for an MP. We want you to vote for your life. We want you to vote for maybe your health status. We want you to vote for where you want education to be. Because we have a crippling issue of health services. We have the whole social welfare principle in Uganda is being taken for granted. It's being taken to the ground that if Drake is NRM and PLU, then if services come in a particular area, it's going to be served first, which shouldn't be the scenario. So I think to narrow it down, one, EC has to reconsider the time frame that they're giving for people to understand. I think it should be broadened to maybe a month or two. Then they get on ground because they have money. I mean, it's our taxpayers' money. They have money. Let them get on ground and do the basics. Yeah. Okay.
Cynthia, let's understand the why, because it's very important to interrogate the why. Why is it that, one, there is low turn up to update these registers? He highlights very crucial issues regarding to people not understanding, not being sensitized, having a very different perspective or perception as regards to this exercise. The why question would then be, do people even understand why they should vote? Do people understand the essence of democracy? Do people understand the value of their one vote? Because if people did, they would then go for this exercise. Let's interrogate and ask the why question, which I want you and Aineplani to help us understand.
Okay, so I think it's in twofold. I think people do understand the significance of their vote, and I also think they don't as well understand it. And I think it's pretty simple or complex as well. We understand it to a point that it becomes worthless when you're doing it and it's not doing anything, it's not changing anything significantly, so you push yourself to give up and tell yourself, I don't think what I'm doing is worth it. I don't think there is anything that is going to shift, so you fold arms akimbo. However, we also do not know the significance of the vote because we ignore what the representation of people's voices, even when they're being suppressed, is. I think it can be a significant thing for us as young people to constantly participate within democratic processes, elections and voting, no matter how they turn out to be. Because it's a semblance or it's a signal that we know what we want, we have a sense of direction, and we have a purpose through which we follow. Because I think it's also been the biggest push and pull among young people versus the older generation, saying we do not know what we want, we don't know how to fight for what we want, or we don't know how to push for what we want. So we claim to be woke and we claim to understand to a point where our understanding pushes us to fall back. However, I think our understanding should be a reason for us to constantly keep the voice echoing so that there is a semblance that we understand what our purpose is within this generation, but also for the nation. So I think in as much as we would say, I would agree to the perspective that a lot of people don't really know the significance of voting. They don't know the significance of making sure you're in a voters register for your country. And that could be attested to rural areas where that exercise has not taken full fold and there is not much sensitization as well. But also the nature of democracy could be blamed for that particular problem because we've made it look so pseudo to a point where your chairman is being voted because he bought a couple of people alcohol to sit in a local space. Such a person will not have the knowledge or will not have the drive or the incentive to educate you about what it means for you to vote someone in his place because he's not experienced that democratic placement to be there. He's had a couple of chains of influential people to put him to that place. So I think that's the thing. Redefining what democracy looks like is important for the why to be answered, but to also create incentive for young people. And I think it also falls as a burden for us to do that for ourselves as a generation. We can't sit back and constantly wait for these things to be done for us. And it's about that time where, as the learned people, we are not educating people on Twitter. We are not educating people by posting things on Facebook. We are not educating people by posting things on our WhatsApp statuses. I'd give a simple, exciting reference. There's a lot of push and pull recently within the debate space about not having African representation on an international scale. And a lot of people posted about it on their WhatsApp status. So someone comes up and says, how many of you have the contacts to the most influential people that are going to read about this on your WhatsApp statuses and actually provoke change for it? So we need to understand where the niche of communication for that change to happen is. And it can't be on our WhatsApp statuses with fellow learned people that know the significance of these things. It has to go as far as you've been educated, you're the representative of the village. When you graduate, the entire village is celebrating you. What are you giving back to that community? Are you teaching them? Are you educating them about these things? Considering the fact that we are claiming to be the woke generation, the Gen Zs that are pushing for change, I think the grassroots change is very, very important in achieving those things and answering the why most especially.
Something that you made mention about young people not having interest in going, first of all, in updating their status on the register, but also putting in their vote. In the year 2021, young people or the youth aged 18 to 35 comprised 67% of the voters. To give context or numbers to that, registered voters in the elections of 2021, according to the Electoral Commission, we had 58,527 registered voters. Now, 67% of that 17 million registered voters comprises of 11.8 million voters, young people aged 18 to 35. But there was a low voter turnout by the young people themselves. Now, why? Even if now we cannot, first of all, update the register because we comprise 75% of the population. Why? You mentioned that because maybe we may think that there's no change that is going to happen, and yet your vote could actually matter.
Yeah.
So what can be done differently?
So I think for starters, it's about us embracing whatever is happening. There is a lot of push and pull on whether we should be involved in what is happening or we should not be involved.
And does it matter?
I think, yes, exactly. And does it even matter? We need to embrace the situation we are in. Not embracing it to say, we've accepted, let's fold arms akimbo and move on. It's embracing it and realizing that this is where the problem is. However, for the structures and the systems to change, it's not going to happen by me sitting back. The same way we had the courage to speak about the walk to parliament, the march to parliament, and people actually marched to parliament, even if in small numbers. I think we need to embrace the desire for change and practicalize it. Okay. We can't just sit back and say, well, nothing is going to change. That's a lazy man type of thinking, but it's also a significance that we've not yet really experienced what is going to push us to the wall, but we can't wait for that as well. I think there is something pretty interesting that happened recently in the Constitutional Justice Conference when we had, remind me his name, the professor that came from Kenya?
Lumumba.
Yes. And he mentioned something and said, African nations are young. We are about like 60 years, 65. We are still too young, but not too young to a point where we can't fight for the progress that we need. And one of our politicians got really, really angry and said, no, what you do is you now push people to be lazy and fall back to their comfort zones and not act, because we are all believing in the common thing that we are a young nation and things are going to sprout out and change. But I think we need to understand that these things are proximate to us and we can't fold arms and sit because they are going to happen inevitably.
Every
just
contribution
because
matters.
exactly.
I think that's what he said.
Yes.
He said that when I think he asked one of the leaders on the panel and said, what contribution have you made to your nation?
Exactly.
So every contribution at this point matters.
That's why I said, regardless of whether or what the vote will turn out to be, the significance of you voting alone is very, very vivid and is crucial towards symbolizing how much you want that change, but symbolizing how much you're willing to do for that change.
All right.
Yes.
Aineplani.
Yes, please.
We're still asking the why question because the couple of challenges that we're experiencing, he highlights that the EC hasn't had or hasn't conducted enough sensitization to bring in proper mobilization, because you have a country of numerous communities, numerous tribes, numerous languages, and you have the sole responsibility under Article 61 of the Constitution. According to our Constitution, the EC has that responsibility to conduct elections, and that means the exercise that they're doing now is a constitutional mandate of making sure you bring, you ensure that people are registered in the various locations to easily cast their vote. But there's already a challenge that is being highlighted. One, a short period of not more than 3 weeks. Yeah, for people to update their register. We have a country of close to 50 million Ugandans who work and do things in various locations. I come from Gulu. My national ID shows I am registered in Badege. So I have to leave my place and go back to Gulu to do that. And all those are challenges. Yeah. Besides the challenges that he highlighted in terms of minimum sensitization, we come to why young people are not turning up, because we are the majority and we're the people that can actually influence the vote. Yes. We ask the why question. Why are young people not involved in this? She highlights very crucial and very pertinent issues that we need to actually be interested in having at least some effort to have the change that we need. But I'm still interested in the why question. If we have a low voter turn-up, the young people are not interested. It's not that every young person in this country is educated to the capacity that some of us on this panel, or the privilege that some of us on this panel have to have at least gotten a particular stage of education. You're a law student yourself. You understand the need of constitutionalism and democracy. Your knowledge of democracy and constitutionalism is way different from someone in Kaberamaido who possibly dropped out in P7 and is your age mate. He may not care about who is their MP or who is their president. All he wants is just be there and be happy and be peaceful. That's all he cares. And his vote goes away just like that. So my why question still stands. How can we get every Ugandan, educated, non-educated, old and young, to be part of this process and to engage in the electoral process?
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Drake. Let me begin with the adage that goes that find out the reality and deal with the reality. Beginning with the exercise that is going on right away is part of the roadmap which the Electoral Commission is supposed to conduct. Because we are having different things in the same exercise. One is updating the voters register. Yeah. Then we also have finding out the right information, if your information is the right information. And there is something we are forgetting. Mr. Drake, if you have been keen, we have people whose identity cards have already expired.
True.
We are leaving all of that behind.
And majority of Ugandans,
yes. So giving us a period of just 20 days, it's very minimal for us to conduct that.
It's like saying, it's like saying you want to marry without a wife.
Yes. So to begin with, the Electoral Commission should have set a pace, a time for sensitization and mobilization.
Yeah.
Remembering that Uganda is a country where we have remote areas, hard to reach areas, because we assume there are people without smartphones, there are people without radios. So which period has the EC taken to make sure those people in the deep areas have gotten that information? This is what we shouldn't look on to be the role, only to be the role of the EC, but it should be the role of every Ugandan. because we believe the EC may not reach where we can reach. The EC should put what we call proper communication, depending on the means of communication. Because I have been vigilant about the exercise. The exercise is being publicized on televisions, on radio stations, on smartphones. But my dad could be maybe having no smartphone. You may find there are areas where there is no network. So how will those people get to know? It is a lot of me, it is a lot of you, it is a lot of every Ugandan.
Yeah.
It is a lot of every priest in the church. It is a lot of every teacher in a school.
Community leaders,
To communicate,
lay people.
community leaders, contestants, everyone in the country. It is our role to tell our people, to inform the country about the process that is ongoing, about updating the voters register. Then when I come to the question of why, you know, Mr. Drake, in the whole world, Uganda has the youngest population.
Amongst the youngest.
Yes,
Top
the
three.
youngest.
Yeah.
So when you find that we have the percentage of 70% are the youth, people below 35 years, according to UBOS results, what does that mean? It means that we have a role to play, a bigger role to play in the politics and the leadership of the country than the old people, because we have the largest population.
But surprisingly, our parliament has, the statistics show that 12.3% of people aged 35 or younger is what is our representation in parliament.
Exactly.
So and most interestingly, in the recently concluded elections of 2021, those are the statistics. Still, we still had a huge number of young people engaging in the process. But guess what pushed them out? Commercialized politics.
Exactly. I'll come to that later. So we are having some challenges which I think we are facing. One is accessibility. Are people accessing what they should access in terms of this exercise? If they are saying they are putting registers in parishes or
Words.
yes, in wards, is everyone? Because there is what we are forgetting, what I haven't heard about, people in diaspora. We have Ugandans who are in diaspora, and being in diaspora does not make someone cease to be Ugandan.
Yeah, I remember last
They
year.
retain their laws, their rights of voting.
Not true.
Article 35 of the Constitution, 59 of the Constitution, gives everyone a right to vote.
True.
So are we giving them a period to move from where they are to come and check for themselves? Because this is a personal thing, where I may not go in Guru to check for Drake. Drake needs to come from a university in South Africa, a university in Kenya, a university in Tanzania to come and check for himself. So given the period of 20 days, is it possible for the people in diaspora to make it here in Uganda to check? Then coming to the youth, especially students, I myself, I reported on 3rd of Jan, meaning many people are already in universities. KIU has a number of people. It has millions of people. So how will they access the registers? There I bring a point of competing priorities. It means now we shall come on table and say, I will compare the priorities I have. Academics versus going to the village. Uganda is a country where you find parents are struggling for my transport from home to campus. Then how now will I tell the parents that I'm coming back to check? It means someone may go back to the village and end up staying in the village without coming back to campus. So the competing priorities there, it sets the youth aside, especially the students who have already lodged into the universities. Because I have had Makerere, they have also reported. KIU, they have reported. A number of universities, plus secondary students.
Well,
And
yes, to report, yes.
Yes, and it was clear by the Electoral Commission that people who are above 18 years who will not update or register newly will not participate. Then, is that democracy? Because it seems like it is delayed justice that will compromise with democracy. And of which we believe that even just one vote can change the country. I had her talk about maybe how people may have lost trust in the Electoral Commission. It is not about trust. It is about us Ugandans. He mentioned it right. Before you ask what the country has done for you, ask yourself, what have you done for the country? So one vote can bring down the whole country. And to what she was talking about, and what actually you hinted about, commercialized politics, it is also bad that our leaders, especially those who are contesting, have kept quiet at this moment. And they expect people to vote for them later. So we're asking ourselves, who will vote for them? If they do not want to mobilize their people to go and check themselves, they are quiet. This is not only for the Electoral Commission. Because if we leave it for the Electoral Commission, we shall find a little number of Ugandans have turned up. And it will be a disgrace to Uganda, not the Electoral Commission. Because whichever number comes up, the Electoral Commission will proceed and conduct elections. We cannot say the elections will be free and fair, since a number of people will not have participated. Means there is something that we are leaving aside. We need to first do what we call sensitization. We make sure every Ugandan knows about what is going on, what is turning around the country.
Let me just ask you a very
Yes,
simple
please.
rhetoric question.
Yes,
Where did you get to know about this exercise that is ongoing?
I myself, I got to know it during the Christmas festival. And I have colleagues, I have a colleague who lost a smartphone in November.
Mm.
He just got to know about it yesterday when I was using with him. And I assumed that is one of the people who is
One of the many.
Yes.
One of the many
Who got to know yesterday.
who got to know yesterday. Others just bumped
So I'm
on a
assuming,
headline on a tweet.
What about someone in
and assumed.
Kitugum? What about someone in Kwatsidro?
And some are going to know it
After
about
the
it.
exercise.
After the show.
After the show, yeah.
Even yes, after the show.
So Mr. Drake, it is a disgrace to find that people are going there and the turn-up is little.
And then,
Meaning
and
that
then
the
us
Electoral
telling
Commission
people are not
is
coming. Yeah?
spending a lot of money to pay their staff who are sitting on different centers doing nothing because people are not turning up.
When he mentions the issue of upcountry, let's not just think it's about people who are upcountry.
Yes.
I can have a laptop, a TV, and a smartphone, and I'm working. My time at work is strictly work. When I come home, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go respond to a few missed calls, a few WhatsApp messages, and I sleep. So even me being in Kampala is not it's not mandatory that I know about the procedure.
The Electoral Commission has employed some sort of technology.
At work?
But have we moved to the stage whereby we can just send out links?
And who's going to trust the link? We've seen what
Exactly
the
the
guys who are
point.
Mr. Drake, the level of
Exactly.
technology goes with the level of development of people in the country.
True, that's true.
You cannot bring that level of development
Of
when
links.
you sure that people don't have smartphones.
That's true.
So how will
Plus,
someone
if
use
they
that?
have it currently, the number of friends we have who
Yes.
have been scammed through links, no one
The
is willing to
UNICEF
take
link that
the
up to now
UNICEF.
is somehow still
Somehow
there.
They are giving us how much money? 16,000. You cannot tell me Aruho brand not to use a link. You understand what we are trying to mean?
Yeah.
Is that and the issue is more or less the same. Have enough time to market this thing.
Send out bulk SMSs.
Yes, have enough time because you just need enough time. Break it down for people.
Mr.
Instead
Drake,
telling
not
you
what he's saying.
places had to
I think
reach.
what should have done first is to tell people the why question.
And I think they should
Why
have
are
started
they
with the consultation
updating
with
the voter
stakeholders.
register? Because people in the village are saying, me, I have been voting
Hey,
since
but then kuba kwa mkoa.
2001. Why do I need to go there? They know me.
They know me.
I have
The
been
people who are
voting.
contesting know me.
And it would again spark violence during the time of voting. When these people who know that they have been voting find that they have lost their voting rights.
They are not
Because
there.
they know that they are in
They
the
are
register.
supposed to vote.
And that's the spark of the conversation about
Exactly.
election rigging, not
Right.
trusting the system itself because of the miscommunication that comes from the parent stage of the elections itself.
So at this point in time, we put entirely the blame on the EC for possibly
Exactly.
not doing
Yes,
it
because
Or
it's
enough.
possibly not doing enough sensitization.
Because before
in
you
the
say
whole of the
before you
country.
say citizens help us,
Yes.
first do what you're supposed to have done.
And citizens need to know the law of voting. Why are they voting? A person will ask you, why am I spending money to move from where I am to the center to update the register?
There could be a peculiar point of argument, and the EC could say, because they can't argue that they don't have money. They have been given the money. So now, what we need to interrogate is, why are they not doing what they're supposed to do? Because one, the Article 1 talks about sovereignty of the Constitution, but also the sovereignty of the people. And us being the sovereign people of this country, that means we have every right to count our vote by casting it, right? If the state that we sign a social contract with to give us the services that we need in terms of, yes, giving us the sensitization to let people know what they're supposed to do before signing that contract again this year and early next year.
Yes.
They've already failed on the contract. So that means the burden and responsibility will fall on them. There's a why question we ask that because people have these arguments of, yes, vote stuffing, rigging, among others. Someone would be saying, if I go and register now, they're already stealing the vote. So all of you unanimously agree that there is need to have a robust campaign in terms of sensitization by the EC, at least 2 months of active sensitization on all, on social media, on television, on radio stations. Something that is being done now, but being done in the time of the process, which I think is the problem. Now, for the students who actually inform majority of the voters because they're young people, do you think is it even fair in any way? I'm going to now push that question to you, Brian. Is it fair for a citizen of this country who is facing challenges in terms of raising tuition, who is facing challenges in terms of accessing medical services, come 2026 to be sidelined because they cannot vote because they were unable to travel during school time to update the register?
That's a double-edged sword. Because you said, Drake, you need to start from the point of view that he said. Some of our parents will struggle even for the basic of getting you a bus to bring you to KIU. There is no way Major now is going to call his parents back, or please help me with transport. I come, I update my registry, and then I come back to study. The question then will be, I mean, from at least we're all Africans, I would suppose. The normal African parent will ask you, what did I send you to do? To study or to vote? Decide one thing. Because I have other children to take care of. So you have to choose whether I'm going to vote or to study. So there is no way Major, even in his confidence that he cannot call his father and be like, in your transport, it cannot work out. So definitely, yes, what he's saying that later on violence is going to erupt, it's true because from the time memorial when Major started understanding these things, he knows he's supposed to vote. Now he's going to reach there, you're going to tell him, Sijui, your name is not on the list. And he'll tell you, but you guy, last time we voted here. I came here, I lined up, I voted. You understand? So now you're telling Major, you cannot, somehow his name is not on the list. The issue is going to come. Either you have a candidate that you want to pass through, or it's the whole rigging thing, or you say, a system, it's the whole thing. So now later on in future, in the 2030 something elections, you're not going to tell this man to go and register because he has already lost the initial trust. And this is the whole debate thing. The campaign thing by EC is practically, that whole social contract theory is practically trust. You have to have trust in the citizens so that later on they vote. Even when now you start EC and you start telling people later on, oh, each vote counts, what? People know, yes, it counts. But to what extent? I've reached and my name is not there. Me, I know I've always been voting from here. So it's not fair. But then also to another point, you would say maybe EC maybe will argue out it's fair because we campaigned. We told you guys to go and register and what, so your name is not there, so you cannot vote, you cannot blame us. But that is again depriving people of the very basics that they want to do, because when I vote, I decide a number of things, both directly and indirectly. Directly, I've decided who I want to represent me, maybe in parliament, or maybe at the district level, or maybe at the parish level. Indirectly, I'm voting on my voice to education, health status, the whole welfare bit. So it is something that this is the question that I think if the EC would, I think it's a discussion that's supposed to have sat down and had a meeting with the stakeholders, these youth leaders, people, the would-be contestants, because again they're within the stakeholders, like those of Cynthia, then come down and now start campaigning so that people understand these things of just waking up one ways and then you tell us now we're updating, now we are campaigning. It doesn't make sense really. It's taking us for jokers. You're making us. There is a word that Maurice Philip usually uses. You're making us literate illiterates. We are studying, but then we're not studying. Yeah, so you're just making us really do things. This is a whole student, really. you're making him look baseless. Because
Sure.
when come here and say you are mandated by Article this, and for you, you're doing
The other thing.
the other
yeah.
way, which pleases you and your command and your commander. I
Yeah.
do submit.
Thank you. It's quite unfortunate and saddening that at times when we even want to be the change that we think we are at some point the system fails us. And I think now this is a call to the EC. And Cynthia, as we sum up on these issues of challenges that we're experiencing, besides the poor mobilization and lack of sensitization by the EC, I think we also need to understand the issue to do with the machines. If things like machines are not getting on the locations on time, how do you expect people to also turn up? Because if machines are failing to reach their destinations on time, we are having challenges already to do with people having issues with their national IDs. Other people have their national IDs which are expired. Aruho himself has a national ID that has
Which says Chira.
which says Chira.
And yet I want to vote in Tonga.
And the challenges seem aimless, but take
Yes.
us away.
Okay, so I think for starters, it's really more of a problem of planning, because you understand, and you've set a budget. Because it's funny how these systems and structures, when it comes to setting budgets and discussing budgets for these things, the effectiveness within which it's done, Parliament is active within those periods of time. The EC is vocal and very active within those periods of time. They are holding press conferences left, right, and center to tell the citizens about how money for this allocation is not being accepted by Parliament and why that is making them inefficient. I think it's more about them applying the same pressure and applying the same energy and efficiency to these things, because you make the country look like it's not planned, or you, like they said, you take us for jokers and you take us for fools. Because what explanation are you giving to someone for a machine reaching a polling station late? Yet this is a program you've planned from December 2024, and you're now in 2026 at the general election, and somehow machines are delaying to reach. It's the petty things that we mismanage or we mishandle that create a negative perception, because the logical thought of someone is, now they're rigging votes, their ballot stuffing. That's why the delays are happening. There is this weird concession I've had among like Ugandans every time electricity goes off, and then they say the government is doing something shady. Because how are you able to sell electricity to a bunch of people, but you cannot sustain electricity in your own country? So the perception towards the things that we do is also very, very crucial. I do not think they don't have the capacity to solve those mishaps. It's about we making sure that we also check them and hold them accountable so that they are not taking us for jokers. I think that's for the most part what we could do to ensure efficiency, being able to actively participate within the system. Because if we normalize and say, anyway, that's what election is. For example, we've normalized seeing soldiers on the streets during elections. That means people are not going to turn up because they don't want to be in the brawl when things go south, because you definitely expect things to go south. So when we normalize these things and we concede to them, the trajectory within which change happens is very less, because it's now something that's normal. EC will say, well, even if we bring it tomorrow and the election has happened today, they will just complain and move on. Nothing much is going to happen. So we need to push ourselves to a point where we check these things, and we also actively push ourselves to participate within the system to make sure it's as efficient as it possibly can be. If they are about 10,000 young people standing at a polling station to vote, it's going to be hard for you to have a lot of mishaps, because you want the system to be as smooth as possible since there are people participating. But if they're like about 15 people turning up at a polling station, these are things we can even do manually, so we relax and say, even if it comes a week later, it's fine. It's fine. So I think those are things. Us participating creates the check and balance that incentivizes these systems to also act accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Major, just before we go to the break of the show, as we wind up on the challenges, because in the other half, I want to talk about the opportunities as well that 2025-2016 elections presents to our democracy in Uganda. She has highlighted almost every challenge that we're experiencing, but there are those intricacies of that aspect of commercialized politics that also informs people's decisions, especially young voters, not to be engaged.
Yeah.
And they say, let's just leave this for the older guys.
Yes.
They have the money. It's okay. They will lead us.
Not even just the older guys. Let's leave it for the kids of those people.
Yeah, there's also that.
All right. I think, Mr. Drake, we have had enough of challenges in the country.
Yeah.
And one of them is trying to cure a disease which we do not know. Exactly. So, when you check what is happening, the Electoral Commission, when people say machines have delayed, then how do you start the exercise without a machine? Meaning machines would have arrived those places a week before.
Yeah.
Then now a machine is there, a person is there before the machine. And why? Let's not close our eyes not to see what is happening. We all know there is a lot of corruption. It is rampant in the country. Did they do scrutiny on the staff they employed? It is also an issue that could have been delaying all this. Because the staff also matters. The experience of the people, the skills, their capacity, what they can do, it also matters a lot. Because if we have the skilled staff, it means the process can be sufficient. But should we find when we have corrupted people ready, we have employed our brothers, we have employed our friends, not because they qualify, but because they are our friends, it could also come as a challenge in that process. So it is also something to discuss whether the staff is qualified to do the work and the machine operators, because it will be also, you know, this country is looks at times becomes weird. At the end, you saw how UBO's results came out, giving results of regions to other regions. Why? Because the staff was incompetent. The qualification, they didn't meet the qualifications. And what we are not giving eyes is the register. Because one, we need also to kick out people who have died. But is that happening? And what is anticipated in future? It's because if we do not look at this, we also need to look at the security, that is the security, the supervision, and the monitoring that EC is giving to the staff. Because if we do not look at the supervision, we might find registers full of non-existent people who are not existing. But in the interest of a certain groups of people whom maybe they could be having the interests in. So it is also another issue. And then also, leaving alone the limited participation and the accessibility, Mr. Drake, allow me also talk about the way of sensitization, the mode of sensitization. When these people are campaigning, you find posters wherever, in whichever country of whichever district of the country. Why not put the posters? Why not the EC put the posters advertising for people to register? Why does that happen only during the voting time? Why not this time when we are still allowing people to come into the registers? Because we shall have a limited number of people to vote if we have not done the massive sensitization. So it should have been a house-to-house campaign. These people who have gone there to do the work should have appeared there before, telling people that we are coming. We are coming to do what? To do this. Why are we coming? Why do you need to also come and participate? Because we need to also recognize the roles and the responsibilities we have as Ugandans, and why we should pray them as they are supposed to be prayed. Because if we do not have the right leaders, the competent leaders, it means we shall have what people are lamenting about. The only solutions to whichever problems we have is to look for competent leaders. How are we going to look for competent leaders, yet we are losing the rights of voting? Because once we have poor leaders, once we have incompetent leaders in the country, it means we shall have a setback again. So it could be a call for the Electoral Commission to add some time and first do more sensitization, more mobilization. Tell people why the implications. Because we believe that if we might look on what is happening and we fail to ascertain the implications. We should also look at the implications. If the turn-up is low, what are the results? Meaning it will affect the democracy of the country. And it is a role of the EC to have to maintain and promote democracy in the country. So, Mr. Drake, we still have the challenges, especially in reaching to reaching to people in hard to reach areas. The radios are not enough, the televisions are not enough. We need to reach on those people. They want to reach in those areas where they are, in those domiciles. Tell them, we are coming to do this. Go on the centers and update your registers. And why? Why are you updating your registers? So that we can all have our rights to vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. You guys have really made an impressive discussion in the first half of the show. Let's also at least second half of the show try and be slightly positive, irrespective of the challenges that you're experiencing.
Sure.
So thank you very much for staying with us up to this point of the show. We'll see you in a bit.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that break. Just before we went into the break, we were discussing the challenges that we are experiencing in the current ongoing exercise that the EC is conducting in updating the voter register of the year 2025-2026 general elections. And a couple of issues were raised in the first half of the show in regards to the challenges. One, to do with the poor mobilization. Two, to do with issues relating to students in terms of how will they move back to their villages, poverty, among others. And what stood out for me is the test to democracy, whether we actually have a real democracy or we just have a pseudo-democracy. But needless to say, regardless of the conversation that we have had in the first half being entirely, should I say, pessimistic. But anyway, it was still informing the discourse in this country in regards to what can be done better. I want us to talk about the opportunities. Let me just speak for myself. In the year 2021, I turned 21 years old, and I did not vote. Yeah, I did not vote. That is for myself. One. Yeah, I know, because on this panel, how many people voted in the year 2021?
I voted.
Oh, so we have two very now, that is where we are headed, because we need to understand the opportunities that it presents. Because once you turned 18, you weren't able to vote. The next time you would have voted was the year 2021, which I did not do. And I take sole responsibility for that because COVID came, we were unable to travel and all that. Yes, I was in Kampala. But now there's no excuse this time. I have to travel to Gulu. I have to travel to Gulu, update or possibly get into the voters register and cast my vote. Of course, every young person has to do that. Now, the opportunities that this presents to us, possibility of casting a vote and changing a government, a possibility of casting a vote and maintaining the government, the possibility of voting that leader that you think can transform your community, and the possibility of Aineplani, Cynthia, or Brian to contest in your region, because all those are possibilities. Now, let us speak of the opportunities. The update of this register is timely, and it's one that is necessary. Cynthia, possibly one day you'd want to run for MP, and this is the first step you need to do, is to appear on, make sure you appear on that register and be able, first of all, to eligibly vote. What are those opportunities that this exercise presents to Ugandans?
As an aspirant.
Okay. First of all, I'm being gaslit into politics, but we'll see. We'll see. So there is this thing every time I'm around my Kenyan friends, and there's this one particular one called Ndolo. We would move through the streets of Kenya around University of Nairobi and around their parliament, Ndolo would say, feel a breath of democracy. This is what democracy feels like.
Damn.
And it slaps. Because I think the biggest opportunity we do have as young people is this is our chance to reclaim the country, but to also have a reason to check whatever happens.
Yeah.
The biggest reason as to why we are very reluctant. For example, I have never voted. The question is, as a person that has not voted, which mandate do I have to speak against activities of the government? Which mandate do I have to check the government or to ask for certain things? Because I am not actively participating within the system. But when you are involved in the system itself, you have a reason to check how efficiently that system is moving. When it comes to opportunities, I think we now as young people do have a chance to participate, to have a say, and to make sure that what we say matters and it actually counts. There is this discussion we were having, you know, those under the table type of discussions where everyone says, if we concede or if we accept that we've lost it all and there's nothing much we can do, how are we enabling ourselves to survive in that space? The reason as to why you would incentivize government to pass policies that are going to help young people is when they fear for the retaliation that young people are going to have. But they can't fear when they don't have a reality of spec in terms of what young people are doing and what they want. In the first segment, I mentioned how even if the vote does not turn out the way you want, there is still a representation of your voice. No matter how much we agree to the fact that there is ballot stuffing, there is vote rigging and all that, there is still a semblance of reality that they will see before they rig the elections, before they ballot stuff. They're still going to see the reality on book that, okay, young people are participating. This is what they are saying. To make sure they are keeping young people in check, to have a lot of protectionism around the system, they are going to do things in the way that protects young people. That means the policies they are passing need to protect young people. The opportunities that you're giving them to thrive within that country become very, very crucial to your level of being like a protectionist government or to keep yourself in check. So that's why I think this is a very, very big opportunity for us to create incentive for our voice to be heard, not just to end up as a discussion in a room somewhere, but to practicalize into the nature of policies, how they affect the education system, which I think is the most crucial to us, how it affects the health system, the employment market. All these opportunities are only practicalized when our voices are heard, and this is a unique chance for us to show that we are reclaiming the country, we are participating, we are making democracy make sense in our country.
Okay, interesting. Brian, we live in a time, as one of the most richest people in this world put it, the best time in human history. A time whereby the world is so interconnected. People are just a text away, even when they're miles, 1,000 miles away from you. You still feel them that close to you. And that being the case, the rise of technology, a possibility that technology has to influence, but also to canal support in terms of winning the hearts of young people. We have young aspiring leaders, and these are avenues that we're seeing a number of aspirants, since we're going to have the National Council elections also coming up. Avenues that young people are using. Putting aside the commercial politics, this is an avenue that is proving to work. In the concluded elections of the Uganda Law Society, allow me to use that, though it's a platform way different, but you saw the influence that social media had on the elections of Senior Counsel Semakade Isaac. Now, that just shows you the influence of technology. We saw what technology did in regards to the influence it had in our sister country, Kenya, Nairobi, of how young people spoke against their democracy. That possibility and what is yet to happen in this country could be experienced 2025-2016 elections, unless the internet is not shut down, God forbid. But we're looking at possibilities.
History may repeat itself.
God forbid. Technology. How can young people leverage on that to possibly put them in positions and influence policies in this country?
Thank you. I think we need to start with the very basic of understanding how sweet it is to cast a vote. You know, when you vote, and
Educate us.
Let us know.
not from the perspective of being a Kenyan, but you know, when you vote and the person you voted passes through, there is that sweetness, there is that victory that you feel within you, like, yeah. Because, you know, somehow, somewhere, if this person messes up, you can ask that person, that's what she's saying. You know, I cannot hold these people accountable because I did not vote. And that was a very different story in Kenya because their voter turnout,
It's
surprisingly, were the youth.
Yes.
The biggest number that they had were the young people. So when things sort of shifted, they said, no. You told us you're going to do A, B, C, and D. Down the path you're doing,
Z, X, Y.
Which we are not understanding.
Yes.
And they came out against that. It's because they knew what they had voted for. But you, first of all, you don't want to register. Secondly, you want EC to beg you. Thirdly, you're saying, government equality. So when it comes out later on and they do what they want, then please sit down and keep quiet.
And allow it happen.
Because you forfeited that right. Straight away, you're like, I'm not going to vote. NRM, those are the things. Someone here said when electricity goes off government, it's presumed government. So also presume that since you did not vote, be very in need, as Uganda would say. But coming to technology, I would urge my fellow young people, because we are all young. You said you turned 21 in 2021. That means you say you're turning 25. I would urge all my fellow young friends to use technology in a very right way. Because, you know, when you're going in for campaigns and all these things, you're looking at it from a two-point view. One as an individual, and then from the point of view of government. There is, I don't know who lies to Ugandans or whatever, but when someone is in power, you need to respect them. The access of funds that they have and material is a lot. That one message that you will send, you never know how it ends for you. We are young people. And also you never know how it comes out for you in the future. Because we now have MPs who, way back in the day, were saying we're fighting corruption and right now their names are in, they cannot say anything. They're the same people who are promoting tribalism, they're the same people who are promoting nepotism, and then you're like, boss, you get. But for my fellow young people, I think this would be a very sweet time for them to brand themselves using technology. People like Cynthia to come out and you see now like this whole electoral process. He said, before we blame the EC, let's also blame ourselves that we are not marketing. Because if I wanted to contest, if I were like Cynthia and I wanted to contest, yes, I should use this period, because you've said it's just a click away, and my flyer is all over northern Uganda, is all over. You get those small WhatsApp groups have multiple outreaches. Let me make a poster educating people on why they need to register. You get. That way, later on, when I come to contest, whether for National Youth Council, whether the Youth Leagues, because NRM is going to be in the NRM Youth League, FDC Youth League, whatever party I'm affiliated to, when I come out to contest, there is already that name that I've pushed. People know, oh, this is the guy, this is the guy that was telling us to register. Somehow they resonate with you. So it's not, because it's not just about waking up one day and say, I want to contest. There are preliminary stages that we'd call baby steps that we'll do. So I think let's use this technology in Uganda, which we call WhatsApp. Let's use this WhatsApp very vibrantly to not only market ourselves, but also inform ourselves with rightful data that maybe I can ask Cynthia, I can ask Blake, oh, please update me. Where have we reached with the EC on the terms of registration? How can my people in my constituency get these polling stations? Which polling stations are nearby? In my district, my home district, how many sub-counties do you have? Maybe parishes. Oh, or did PDM actually reach this level? So by the time I'm coming to inform people I want to contest in, the people I want to represent, I'm also well informed. And so technology should not, yes, I understand we are going to want contest. I think it should go beyond contesting prior. It should be about us also helping the EC simplify their work. Because if I'm from Ntungamo, I should at least right now, if I wanted contest, be helping to push down this information down. I can use my personal picture and name and post that information, which is fine. Because I know I'm passing a narrative, because then we'll have to look at technology from that side. Not only just contesting, but also information gathering. Thank you.
Thank you. Any plan?
Yes, sir.
Opportunities that this presents for us.
All right, when it comes to opportunities, whereas the young people, one, we have to base on participation, augmented participation. We need to actively participate in this exercise because it is our right, it is our time. We believe whether we are young, as long as we are above 18, then we qualify to also actively participate and develop our leadership skills. You know, we need to always borrow a leaf. I think in Sierra Leone, it is Colonel Stresser, John Melvin Stresser. He became the president at 25 years. I heard Mr. Drake is now
25.
25.
I am making 25.
What people give his excellence.
Yes. 25.
Yeah.
So Mr. Drake, it is a call to the youth to actively participate. Here, President Kabila from Democratic Republic of Congo became the president at 29 years.
But there's an issue I have with
that. I know.
There's an issue I have with that. The timing
At the time
of the democracy then and now is way different.
there
But
is-
the reality is
It's
there
the
are
same
young
concept.
people.
they were young people,
Mm.
even our own president. When he was going to the bush, he was young. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? So we need to actively participate as an opportunity for us right now. We need, because we've been all along, the last year we saw something, the run to parliament about corruption. But at this moment, when we need now to push off the faces we were seeing in corruption, we are quiet. Then are we
Very.
solving the problems, or
Yeah,
we are
very
again
quiet.
setting the country to a setback? So we need to actively participate in elections. If it means contesting, let the young people also contest. And you cannot contest when your name is not in the voters register. Meaning we need to to redefine our borders according to the registers. Find out whether the information in the register is the right information. And Mr. Drake, I think it is also a call to the Electoral Commission, please, to have a cross supervision. We know Uganda, we may not trust these staff people because we are not sure whether the names they are putting are the right names to be put. Short of that, we shall find when we have Congolese, when we have a lot of people voting and Ugandans failing to vote, even when they have the rights, people without rights voting for Ugandans. And there we may not claim, like you say, Drake, now you cannot claim because you did not vote. But once we have voted, we become liable. We hold that liability to claim what belongs to us. Because we shall say, you gave us the manifesto. And actually, this could be a call to the whole country. We are now, we have less than a year to go for the elections. Let's now start checking into scrutinizing the manifesto of those who are already in parliament. If a person said, once you put me into power, I will lobby for this Lord, has that person done so? If he said, I will bring electricity, I will bring water nearby, has that person done so? We shouldn't look on the faces, on the colors of the people, on the levels of education. We only have to look on their responsibilities. If they have fulfilled what they pledged to do. Because when they were contesting, they told you what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
We should be asking ourselves, have really they done their part? If they have not, definitely, let the young people also come on. Then what he was talking about, the technology, is these Nelson Mandelas, by their time when they were claiming for democracy, for Pan-Africanism and everything, they had no smartphones. It would take long, actually years, to communicate with the rest of the parts of the world. But right now, Mr. Brand can communicate with the world in a second. But we are misusing that technology we have. Instead of using the social media to advertise for what helps us, for what can build the country, we only use the social media for jokes, for abusing our leaders, even when they have done their part, or even when they have not done their part. Because I believe abusing Mr. Brand has not solved my challenges. Instead of abusing Mr. Bread, I have to lay a strategy to unseat Mr. Bread. If my MP has done nothing, then an abuse is a more insult to my people. It is a disservice. I have to lay down the strategies of unseating that person and make sure if I can do better, then I contest. If I have that phobia that I may not do better, then I have to identify some person who is capable of doing better. This is why he was talking about commercializing politics, because we've gone astray. To find we are voting for people because of the handouts they are giving us. This has...
some are actually going to give us just a bar of soap and...
exactly.
So
there is what is behind our thinking, what we don't look at. Imagine at your age, at his age, you're voting because someone has given you a t-shirt, because someone has given you a bar of soap. Should I believe that for the past years, 5 years he has been in parliament, you've not been bathing? Just because they have given you a packet of soap.
That's harsh,
Haven't
though.
you been eating for the last years?
That's harsh.
I do have a contradictory perspective to that.
Yes.
I think you also need to take into consideration the stature of the people that are voting. People are poor. People are devastated.
Good.
So-
Now there, I
But-
have
but-
to refute
and you see-
that
that
challenge.
is the greater majority of the desperate voters.
Exactly. Let me refute.
And who are the majority? Because they're in a situation whereby one, let's say Aineplani, you're running for office, talk about commercialized
Yes,
politics.
yes.
You have your 10,000 notes of 100K.
New,
Yeah?
new
New notes.
Bunausa, because an average count.
Yes,
Yes.
you go to your village, you find the uneducated, desperate voters. You give them 10 towards them.
Why would the entire vote for you?
Good. This
And
I
that is how
again-
they won.
I again push this to the electoral.
That is how we won.
Majority of...
No, you have
I don't have a
Alright.
name.
Regardless of what the Electoral Commission does,
Yes,
if you're not pulling people out of poverty, you're not removing
you're
an
not
incentive to
helping,
vote
Yeah.
over bribe.
Good. But are we looking at the part of how to solve poverty? Because if we again allow to vote for one packet of salt,
So guys,
it means
are
we
you,
shall
are
again
you
live
actually
the next
realizing that we're
5
like
years without
oscillating
salt.
on the same pendulum?
Instead we
Because people are poor,
yes.
we're talking about commercialized politics.
Yes.
Yeah, people use the same money to bribe voters because the voters are poor. They put these people into power who do not influence anything. They keep on.
They
the
keep-
same
they
cycle.
keep
It's
on-
the same cycle.
So what I'm saying, I'm not saying don't take the salt.
So
Take the bar.
how?
So it is your. They are your taxes. They are your
Okay.
taxes. When they bring,
I think
they give you handouts, Mr. Drake. Take. But the question is,
Who are
do
you?
not base on what they have given you to
Oh,
cast your vote.
Yes.
And because me, if you give me the money, honestly, I'll take the money, but I may not vote.
Because I believe there is what the Electoral Commission should do in while sensitizing the law and the basics
Yeah.
of voting. Do not look at what a person has given you. Ask yourself, this person has given me money, meaning I have sold my
My
vote.
soul.
So if Drake, I have given you 1 million and I don't do the road, then you won't knock my door. But I gave you money, I bought your vote. So it is not a solution to poverty. Instead, a solution to poverty is to chew that money they have given you. I have no problem with it.
but it's only money that it will get done.
There
It will get done.
there is a video.
The soap they have given you
There is a
into
video that is circulating. I don't know if you. Is it the woman MP of Namatula? Something. I think you guys have seen the clip. They are debating our age mates. She organized the function, and she went there. Luckily enough, she went there, and this one guy comes up and is like, "But ever since you went, we've never seen you, and you sent us boreholes a month back. You have come to assess if they are working, and we are going in for elections. Why have you waited for all this period
Come back
to
now.
come back and not assess us on boreholes? Boreholes, the basics."
Judith Barrio won an election and disappeared.
We have a couple of people who have disappeared. They win and go mute. So as young people,
Has she ever attended the parliamentary session?
So, Mr. Drake, I think this reminds me that we again have.
anyway, she's not here to defend herself. She might have her
Yes.
issues.
Yes.
We again
Yes,
have.
yes.
Rightfully so.
We as the young people, we need to raise a call and sensitize the people on the laws of MPs. Because this reminds me that there are people there back there who do not know the laws of the MPs. They think an
True.
MP is meant to bring money for condolences.
But
They think
that's
an
the role
MP
of the Electoral Commission.
Yes, they
because
think-
at this point in time, they
Yes,
should not only be telling people to update and go have themselves registered, but also now start the process of sensitization on why their vote counts and the role of these politicians.
It's true.
As I
Because the
began,
politicians are going to ngenda bakolera oluguudo.
yes,
And
in the
that is not
beginning
their
I
role.
said we are curing a disease
That
that
we
we
do not
don't
know.
know.
True.
Because the reason to why these politics are being commercialized is that people don't know the roles of politicians, the roles of leaders. They expect when you go to parliament, I should call you, I have a party home, you have to respond.
Also,
They
the
should call you,
idea
I
that-
have a Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
you have to respond.
I
And
think
continue.
I
politics
should call
has
you, my
become a
brother
career.
has died, you have to respond. If you do not respond, then you are not a good leader. But is it the role of the member of parliament?
I think it's more also about politics becoming a career. I've listened to this. There is a time there was a similar session with Semujunganda on Capital Gang. And he mentioned how constituents would expect you during COVID to send them money, to send them food to their homes and all these things, which you could do out of goodwill, but not as an obligation and not as a responsibility. Also the perception of politics being a career. Someone is seated and their entire life,
Career politicians.
they are studying
yes.
to get to parliament. It's not about what service can I give to people. You know, there's a
But
point where
have
you're
you
in
also
leadership.
noticed that politics has been entirely made to appear lucrative? If you ask very many young people who are aspiring what they want to do for this country,
You want to be called honorables.
besides being called
Besides
honorables,
that-
have you watched that
Yes.
that clip
You're
of
very
I
right.
think it is Honorable, it's Katolu Wama, where it said, give me a chance to
Give me
say
a
that.
chance.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
eat, I eat once, then
Yes,
I know.
yes,
Now-
very true.
another one said, give me a chance, I eat, we shall eat together.
Now,
That was the second time I was
Yes,
contesting.
yes.
Now-
Adole nali ndiali.
now,
Yeah.
many young people, if you ask them, they are going to leave aside their professions because there are no jobs and opt for politics because it now seems to appear as a
It's
career
the hotbed.
and it appears lucrative. You know, you enter parliament,
And-
you're receiving 20 million plus.
No,
A
be- be-
vehicle,
before
a
before
driver.
receiving the 20 million plus, they know they are getting a car.
True.
And not just a car.
Quick success.
Yes, so. Do that.
So,
man.
Mr. Drake, to what you're discussing, it is just because they made the parliament more attractive. It is no longer a call to serve, it is a business.
It's no
People
longer the
sell
sixth
their
Senate
buildings,
Parliament.
people sell what they have to invest in politics, hoping that they will again get the money. And this is why even we have had members of parliament, an increased number, having long hands. I mean, touching the funds of the government. Because they over-invested in the election. They need a refund to what they wasted in the election. So this could be the reason to why all that saga is happening, because they made the parliament more attractive to every other person. Every person is thinking of resigning to go to parliament. But it could be a patriotic call, like when you join UPDF. Long years ago, it would be joining for patriotism, not because you're going to earn salary, but you have that zeal,
Love.
you have that love
To protect your country.
protect your country. This could have been the same call for people to go to parliament. Because we have seen people go there. A person spends 5 months, you've never seen the person on the floor of parliament. So is that good representation? Are you representing your people in parliament? Did we tell you to go and sit and sleep? Not really. We sent you there to go and represent your people,
Yeah.
to go and lobby for your people. Definitely, I will also look at these people who have fulfilled their responsibilities by only attending burials, attending parties.
And those are the guys who
In
will be
their
elected
capacity, they
again.
have worked.
And we have seen
In
them
their capacity, they
as
have worked
the
as
people
father.
who have worked a lot. So this disguises the Electoral Commission, because it should have told the people the laws of the MPs.
Yeah.
The law of the MP, every person, you, Brian, Mr. Drake, we all have the social responsibilities. I have a social responsibility to bury in my area, to bury my friends, to attend functions of my people. It is a social responsibility that you have, but it is not a law.
An
It
obligation.
is not an obligation. So we should learn that when we send these people to parliament, we've sent them to lobby for their people, to lobby lots, to have extensions of electricity and water drainage.
Representation.
Representation, good representation, but not coming to Barre, which we are mistaking to be good leadership. So it should also be a point to the Electoral Commission while advertising, while mobilizing, Let them sensitize the masses on who is a good leader, who is a leader, a good leader, and who is a bad leader. I think it will help us have good governance in the country.
I think as we wind up the conversation
Yes,
and
please.
way forward,
Yes.
in my opinion, I think what the EC needs to do is, you remember in growing up those days when I was in northern Uganda in Gulu, you'd go to every hospital, schools, in every institution, you'd find a poster about you know, the remains of war.
Yes.
About if you step here, you know,
Be careful,
be
where
careful,
you're walking.
all those things.
Yeah.
Like it was plastered all over, and they used label war to put that
Yes.
information across. And people knew, they would even run it on radio stations. And people were aware where to walk and where not. And even when you stepped on one landmine, you shouldn't remove your leg and wait for what? For help. The same energy that was used to disseminate that information should be the same energy
Sure.
the Electoral Commission puts in sensitizing its electorates, because majority of Ugandans are highly illiterate about this concept of democracy.
Yeah.
The only contribution they can make, in my opinion, the contribution that Justice Piabakama has and his team
Yes.
is to highly sensitize the democracy about the essence of their one vote, not just to go ahead and sell away their votes with a bar of soap, a packet of salt, or a packet of sugar, or a t-shirt, or a cape. But to know that their one vote is one call away from influencing the policies in this country, is one call away from influencing the infrastructure, is one call away from disaster.
Yeah.
Once the EC does that, in my opinion, people would really fill up these places with large numbers. But also, once these leaders are elected, the political will to actually do the things that took them there. Those, in my opinion, are the fundamental things that could see this country move forward. But anyway, in the words of Lumumba, he says, let us make the contribution we can make. The next generation will do so. Now it's our time as our generation, we need to make that contribution.
Yes.
As we wind up the show, I'll start with the Aineplani. In just 60 seconds, way forward for the EC, and what can the students do to be part of this exercise?
All right, the EC has the mandate to continue doing massive sensitization like they have always been doing. Like they have to go deep into the villages. If it means putting banners, let them do. If it means reaching on person to person, let them do. Because we've seen the U-boats people do it, reaching house to house. So I think it could also be better for us and the EC if that is done. Then to the students, I think we all need that active participation.
True.
I have already seen people demand for change. It is not only demanding for change, but they should continue demanding for a fundamental change, because anything can be changed. Even right now we are doing change. Let's learn how to demand for fundamental change. We can only demand for fundamental change if we pray our rights and our rules as they are specified and stipulated in the Constitution. That's maybe
Thank you.
in my time.
The only lady on the show, 60 seconds.
Okay, first of all, you did have a very nice submission. I think you could be a panelist and I would host you. But anyway, in my 60 seconds, I would say that the most important thing for us as young people is to understand the significance that we have to the country. But for EC, is creating accessibility. Do everything within your power to make sure it is not an excuse for us as young people that we can't vote. Things like, I can't travel back to Ntungamo like my brother Brian wants to say. Things like, my national ID says Chira, but I want to vote in Lira, for example. That level of flexibility and accessibility to voting and to the election process needs to be given. The same way they had that capacity to pull registration for national IDs into schools and the like, are we able to translate that within the system to say, if election process, because I'm sure by the time we have to vote, people will be at university, for example. Do we have that accessibility to say, this person can't travel from Ntungamo, but they are affiliated to Makerere University Business School? Can we establish a voting center for people in Makerere Business School that come from Lira, that come from Pade, that come from Ntungamo to vote? That level of accessibility is crucial so that we don't have as many excuses as possible to why we are not voting, to why we are not participating in the democratic process. That is very, like you said, you have the capacity to sensitize people about war, put it in hospitals, in schools, and the like. That same capacity should be translated into creating accessibility for people to live within those democratic systems. I think the biggest thing is making sure we are in an actual democracy and not a pseudo-democracy or an authoritarian leadership. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you. Powerful. Mr. President.
I think three things. One, to my fellow young people, let's take up this time and contest. Even if it's a position that we think it's small, let's contest, and then we begin the discussion of us wanting change. Secondly, to fellow voters, let's take time and understand what we are voting, not just voting a person. If it's voting for an MP, let's understand what the roles of an MP are. If it's for a chairperson, let's understand what a chairperson is meant to do, so that we do not play the blame game until the next electoral process. Then thirdly, to the Electoral Commission, let's make this thing a priority. Let's sensitize more. Let's give it a more understanding. Let's update people's information in time, so that we don't reach and people think that maybe there is a suitable candidate that the Electoral Commission wants in. And yes, and at the end, let's, as fellow Ugandans and people living in Uganda, let's make this thing peaceful. Let's participate. Let's collaborate, so that we don't have a ton of events. Humbly, that is it.
Thank you. It's been a very wonderful panel, I must
Mr.
admit.
Drake, I think before we conclude, I have a book launch on 22nd of Feb.
Interesting. What's the name of the book?
The Winds of Change.
The Winds of Change.
Yes.
Can we have a copy?
Yes, definitely.
Signed. A copy signed by you.
Signed by you.
Yes.
Yes,
so-
we shall have.
Mm.
And to the country and to the citizens of the country, we are not in the market. We are not in the market. If they bring money, eat that money. Remind yourself, you're not a cow, you're not a goat, you're not a hen. Eat that money. Those are our taxes that have been embezzled. Be blessed when you receive it, but think of a potential leader. Think of a capable leader. That's it all.
I
Thank you so
just
much.
hope that once people are eating that money, they also have the idea, because some people are just bought.
Yeah.
You just, because they're desperate, the only thing they'll look at is, oh, by the way, this person gave me this.
You give me that money, I'll eat the money. That's good. But
When
I'll
you
vote
eat
the
it,
person who's right.
think of the life after that money.
Yeah.
But
But,
for eating, I'll eat, but I'll vote a person who I know is right.
but also to the leaders themselves. We have very many aspiring young people in these positions. Let us really be the people that we claim we are.
True.
Instead of preaching A and you do entirely B.
Perfect.
Yeah, let us, because we
The
claim,
chat won't end with
yeah,
this.
you claim to be generational leaders. This is a time of change, but we shall see. We shall put you in positions of power and we shall hold you accountable.
But as
True.
long as we believe in ourselves, we can do it.
Definitely.
It is now that we need to do great, and if we need to do great, we have to start right now.
All right.
Sure.
Otherwise, guys, thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you very much, Major. It's been a very thrilling and interesting show. I have enjoyed it, and I hope you, the viewers out there as well, you have had a very interesting time listening to these interesting views. To the Electoral Commission, this is just, it's not criticism, it's positive criticism that I think you need to employ, but also see that young people are included in this process. You talked about accessibility. Make the process accessible to everyone in every part of this country. Do enough sensitization. Ugandans need to know the essence of their vote. And yes, when the time comes to vote, vote the right leaders and know that your vote counts and it matters to the change that you want to see in this country. Otherwise, this is Civic Space TV, Inter-University Debates. And it was nice hosting all of you, and to the technical crew, Paul and Ronald, for making this possible. Thank you very much. And Center for Constitutional Governance for making this possible. See you next week, same time, same place. Have a blessed week.